Alright, so Spotify just released Wrapped for artists. This feature is slightly different than Wrapped for listeners. In this particular version, Spotify provides statistics to artists about their music. They'll tell you how many streams you had, how many hours of play, number of listeners, and other interesting analytical parameters about your releases. The entire thing is packaged really well with pretty graphics, and the artists can choose to upload their creatives on social media. In India, this feature was met with mixed reactions. Some artists shared this creative on their social media, whereas some artists chose not to. Some even spoke about why they chose not to share this creative. This whole thing was really interesting to me, and I decided to make this video to analyze this a little further and also to unwrap the thinking behind their actions. Get it? Unwrapped? Wrapped? As I was writing the script for this video, I realized that I didn't want this video to be just an opinion piece about what I felt about Wrapped by Spotify. So I decided to call a bunch of artists and ask them what they felt about this feature. And I realized that the conversation, apart from being about this feature, went much deeper. We also spoke about something really important, which I'll tell you a little later in the video.
I do it mainly for two reasons. Yeah. The primary and the most important reason is to connect with my audience, because like the way I think about it at least is ki, theek hai, cool, Spotify doesn't pay me enough, and they have they're basically a greedy company that's just leeching us and all. But keeping all of that aside, my audience listens to me on Spotify, right? So I have a duty as an artist and as someone that has an active audience that likes listening to my music to be active on Spotify and to actually make sure that my music is there, no matter how much I hate it. Like Spotify and Mera beef will keep going on, and that will maybe that will ease off, maybe that won't ease off, maybe they'll listen to us artists, maybe they won't. But at the end of the day, I have to interact with my audience.
I never share that.
Yeah, so I wanted I want opinions from both sides. I shared mine, but
Yeah.
I also had a disclaimer at the end that these numbers don't mean much, so don't take them too seriously. Enjoy them.
Yeah.
Like, it's a fun, cool experiment, and just forget about it after a point. But I also geek out on numbers, and I love these creatives that people make, and I actually enjoy.
I mean, the way that they do it is cool. Like that they say this many hours. That's like someone starting and in Feb, and like they never stop. Like it's like the way it's packaged is definitely nice.
It's really cool.
I guess I probably agree with you that I do see both sides. Like I haven't put out anything like about this either way. I have checked mine, of course. I've seen it, but I haven't shared it. I haven't said anything about it. Like it's cool. I kind of feel like I like looking at other people as a listener, they're Wrapped more than the artist side of it, because it's cool to discover new artists, like who they've been listening to. My friends post or someone tags you, you get to see like, okay, there are some others. That's cool. I kind of feel like the reason why, and I don't think I will ever share it, even if I'm happy with the numbers, because I feel like in some sense, it's leading us. I mean, it's the culture that we were in before the pandemic, and that I feel like I want to break away from. The fact that we're looking at this as a report card, we are kind of like, I don't know, like looking at this as our worth. And then you always look at someone who has more or someone who has less, and you're like, I got more than them, or I got way less than them. What am I doing? It's giving me anxiety. So on both ends, like it's quality over quantity any day. I'm an artist who I constantly felt like I haven't reached as many people as I would like to. So like reach in terms of like they haven't even heard it. And like till date, I get people messaging me saying, I just discovered you, and it's some 3-year-old song. And so then if I look at that number, it's like, is that the worth? Or is it like two people who, something that I wrote touched them and they wrote to me and that was really meaningful, and like, I'm good with that. So I feel like looking at that number, and for me, I'm always going to look at, it's going to make me go down this negative spiral of comparing it to other people, and especially most people who have more, and I'm like, should I make something more commercial? Like, why are my numbers so low? And then the point is that it's fine. It's just thing. So that's why I didn't share it. And on the other side, I do see it as a cool thing that I'm very happy to see a lot of indie artists getting much better numbers than maybe the previous years. So it does show that people are starting to listen to homegrown Indian artists more. So that's really positive, like across the board, like doesn't matter who it is. That's always very encouraging to see. So like there is hope, like for Indian artists, you can make it big without going completely commercial. You can still do your own thing. And so in that way, it's nice. So I'm not going to like say anything on either way, but I don't think I would share mine. That's all.
Sure.
This is only how I look at things, is that change is the only constant. And if you see consumption patterns, how music, like when vinyl uh, came out, or when CDs came out in places of cassettes, and cassettes came out in places of vinyl, these points have happened in the past as well. There's nothing new. But I like to believe that you have to find a middle ground between the new and the old, and how things should function. So yes, there should be quality control for music. You should always focus on making the best possible music. But I don't think that has anything to do with Spotify as a platform. I mean, if you can say Spotify doesn't pay artists, and sure, they're not they're not Bandcamp. Let's just say that they're Spotify. But at the same time, in my personal experience, I found that if you release music consistently, and if you reach out to the editors, or if you try to build a relationship with them, they are very open and willing to promote and push artists who want to sort of make the effort and hustle a little bit. So in my book, I think vilifying Spotify overall and completely is unfair, because yes, while the payout mechanisms might not be the best, I think in my experience, I've been to their office in Bombay. I've met with them. I've shared my music with them, and ever since that time, which was in January in 2020 this year, ever since then, they have been very open to sort of all of my mails, all of my press releases which I send them for my music, and they've playlisted my music consistently. So I think there are two sides to this. The first side is, of course, about the pay. And yes, I think that's a discussion which I would love to be a part of, and say that it can get better. But the other side is that you look at Spotify as a marketing tool, or a way to sort of amplify your name and your brand value, because ultimately for anyone at this point of time, it's about discoverability. And if Spotify is helping you discover you get discovered to new people, I think in a way it's paying for itself, because otherwise you'd be buying ads on YouTube or running some kind of campaigns. But mm, that's the way I justify it to myself, that
Yeah.
I might not be getting paid enough on Spotify, but 120,000 streams in 2019 versus 1.7 million streams in 2020. That's 12 to 14x discoverability and growth,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
if I start to achieve it, I'd probably have to spend a lot more money. So I think it's just about, instead of being an old stooge about it and saying ye to bekar hai, and change is kharab, and being
Yeah.
cynical, I don't think that's very healthy. Sure, as musicians, it's our responsibility to raise these topics and have discussions about it. But I find it very, khusat and buddha uncle type behavior to, just say ki, "Ye- this is useless." And I don't like to dismiss it, because there's always something that you can really take out of a platform for your own benefit, and be really selfish about it.
In general, like I've always had a very divided opinion on stats. As much as I think that they are necessary to be a measure of progress, I feel like stats are just for my reference. Like these are personal goals that I need to set. So, by putting a blanket statement saying that stats are not important, you shouldn't care about stats. That's a little stupid, because you should care about stats. You should care about where you've reached over the past year, and what benchmarks you are going to set and need to set and all that. But
Yeah.
what I feel is that those should be personal benchmarks. Now I don't now when I don't want my stats, like the number of plays or number of followers or whatever. Like I don't want that to be the defining factor in my music. Like I don't want somebody to listen to me just because they saw that I have a million plays or something. Like that shouldn't be the scene. Like they should listen to me because they dig the music, and that should be the sole reason anyone listens to me or my music or whatever.
Yeah.
Some people like to feel validated, and sharing their stats and their journey with their friends probably makes them feel validated. So I think everyone has their own sources of validation. My validation comes from
Absolutely.
honest opinions about my music. If somebody playing their music, somebody playing my music in their car, or say smoking to a song and them sending a video to me, is more gratifying for me than seeing that
Absolutely.
I have a million plays and sharing that, you know. So it's
Yeah.
just everyone has a different opinion, and this is my.
Man, the biggest mistake I feel like people are making is that they're confusing two different things. Like Spotify, the platform, is the same as any other streaming platform, with maybe with the exception of Bandcamp. But what we have to understand is that these platforms, like your Spotify, Apple, or kya hai, whatever, like those are the two big players, right? But like honge whatever do teen aise, but that's the model of consumption that is here to stay. That's not changing, you know. And like you can either be pissy about it, or you can, you know, accept it, because otherwise like, you're gonna be left behind very, very quickly, you know. So that's one thing. It is complete. Now here's the thing I don't get. Like it's possible for, you know, to appreciate the platform for what it does, which is like gives you like outreach, puts you so much more in touch with actual tangible numbers that represent how much you're being listened to. Now, if you want to, you know, only focus on the fact that the payout is peanuts, like does that diminish, like, or does that like make, you know, the fact that people are listening to you irrelevant? Because the way I see it, we can either talk about, say, I mean, I'm a huge supporter of Bandcamp, right? I think Bandcamp is amazing, like fantastic site. Now, you can either, you know, talk only about Bandcamp and be like, oh my God, you know, look at the amount of money that I've made from Bandcamp this year. But, you know, the number of people who are, it's not an accurate representation of the actual number of people who are listening to you. So why do the two things have to be confused? All this Wrapped 2020 thing he is doing is just showing you the numbers. And now, if you want to look at it as an insult, oh, you know, well, fuck you, you're rubbing it in. You know, like all these people are listening to me, but I'm also getting paid absolutely fuck all for it. Like, so if you want to look at it that way, that's your call. You know, then tough shit. Now, if you want to look at it the other way, which is that like, you know, you have reached like there's a level of global outreach that was impossible earlier, at least in the span of time that it happens now. 91, 92 countries, right? Like, I mean, that's like pretty much everyone has that. Like, you know, and everyone's favorite country is Russia all of a sudden. Sorry, like Russia is like loves everyone more than anyone else. But none of this was possible. So if you, I mean, I think a lot of people are really salty about the fact that they're not getting paid, which of course is complete. I mean, I was salty about it. Like, I mean, I wasn't really salty about the fact that we weren't getting paid. What I was salty about the fact was that Spotify's owner, Daniel Ek, when he went and he made that really absurd statement, which was that, like, you know, artists need to, you know, churn out albums every however many days or something in order to stay relevant. That was what I had a problem with. Like, you know, it's as if it isn't bad enough that you don't pay us anything. Now you're going to fucking tell us how frequently we need to release stuff, right? Like, but that's a different thing. Like the statistics that Spotify is giving you. If you're going to be angry at these numbers, then what you're doing is you're being angry at the fans who are listening to you, which doesn't make sense. Like, it's okay to be appreciative of the platform and the opportunities that it's creating, like, indirectly for you, like as an artist, like in terms of the exposure you're getting, in terms of the number of people listening, and at the same time be angry about the fact that there's like these two things can coexist. I feel like people feel pressure to either go into camp A or camp B.
Always, one side or the other.
Me, like a numbers geek and somebody who really wants to know, you know, about them, this is a great window to know not only about how they're doing, but also how Spotify is doing, right? Like for me to know, that gives me an insight into like how well Spotify is doing, how well indie music is doing on Spotify. I also feel that there could be some amount of pressure for artists where, where hopefully it doesn't become a competition that, X person is posting like they got so many million streams and like, I don't want to post mine because, it doesn't this thing. I think every kind of rap post is a fan appreciation post to say thank you, for streaming my music. And I think that's the prime purpose of it, to
Absolutely. Yeah.
just, show some gratitude towards your fan base, which I think is a great thing, and maybe some amount of like humble bragging that, look, I got these many posts, but I mean, these many streams and these many hours and these many countries. And what's really encouraging, what I found, that a lot of artists have been posting the number of countries, the number of countries. A lot of them have posted 92. And I don't know whether that's like the number of countries that Spotify is in, but that means the music is literally being heard in like almost every territory that Spotify is actually,
For me, um, things like that, like where you kind of are showing your stats, and I get why like Spotify does it. It's always like, it's almost like a badge of honor that like people wear, like, and it's a great marketing gimmick from like Spotify's like end of it, because not only are like regular people who are music listeners who are sharing about like the top artists that they're like listening to, but you have artists who are sharing it being like, these are my numbers. And for me, like, I personally don't like that, because I feel like it's unnecessary pressure that I then put on myself, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not only unnecessary pressure that I put on myself to possibly achieve those numbers, but also just kind of this you then start pitting yourself against everyone else, like your peers, and you're just like, oh my god, like my numbers look so bad in front of A, B, and C. And yeah, so it's something that I personally don't like. That's not to say I didn't take a look at my numbers. I looked at it because I was like, I wanted to see anyways. But that was just for me. Like, I looked through it, I was like, hey, cool, whatever. And that was about it. Like, it just, yeah, I didn't want to post it. I have like an issue with that.
बहुत पसंद है. Like, it's like a yearly report card, whatever, like plus minus, whatever fine tuning is involved, exactly the same numbers that they are projecting, I'm sure. But whatever it is giving you a kind of a report card, which is, you might take it very seriously, or you can just take it over your head and work upon it, at the end of the day. And अच्छा लगता है बैंक के साथ बात करके भी last year से अच्छा हुआ है. And this is just like 1% of all the streaming from different platforms put together. So I think, yeah, like, we have to change with time, and this current time calls us to look into all these things in a different way. You can talk a lot of things about the platform, but if you are not taking your music out from the platform, then it makes no sense. You should be able to take your music first from the platform. If any artist is saying like that, then just leave that platform and make a point to whatever you are trying to prove.
At least from where I sit at this point, like, I've been a part of this industry for close to 2 years now, full time, I would say. So at this point, I sit somewhere in the middle, where I don't chase numbers, but I don't ignore them either. So at this point, instead of focusing on like, oh, a lot of people should hear my music, I want to make sure the right people hear my music, which initially was completely like, oh, promoters and booking agents must hear my music, because if they like it, I know they'll book me. And that's exactly what happened in 2019. Like last year, I got a lot of gigs, one after the other, because people liked my music. It was just as simple as that. And so far, that's also been the trend. And by not ignoring the numbers, I basically sort of use the numbers to tell how well am I reaching out to my target audience. So how efficient am I being in reaching out to them? So not dwelling on them completely, but I want, for example, apart from the industry people, I want other creative people of our age. Like, I feel like that's definitely one of our biggest target audiences, right? Like other creatives who also like to hear music like this. So reaching out to this because streaming platforms do give you that kind of insight, like age groups and like where in the world and which city and what kind of people they might be, basically. So I feel like, yeah, and I'm saying I do this right now because I feel like 2 years down the line, I might completely change my strategy on this. But at this point, I like sitting in the middle because it also gives me room to, I think, experiment. Like I don't have to commit to a sound like hard and fast at this point. I can play around with, like, I can be a little more experimental with the kind of music I make and see what works for me, what works for my current audience, and in the process also try to build like genuine relationships with those who interact with me through my, I don't know, social media or my music for that matter.
Yeah.
Like I feel like two people reaching out to saying that, oh, I've just been listening to your music all day long, I feel like just means a lot more to me than, I don't know, 500 views, streams, whatever, somewhere else. Like
True.
I like hearing from people like personally. I love it. If somebody has taken the effort to reach out to you personally, it's a big deal. Like nobody needs to do that these days. Come on, like they think a like is enough.
Firstly, I want to thank all the people that spoke to me. I wish I could speak to a lot more, but this video is already 20 minutes long. I have 3 major takeaways after talking to these people and also doing a little bit of my research. Firstly, I don't think there is a right or a wrong side here. Both actions are justified, and if you're feeling guilty about sharing or not sharing, then you probably should not be. The whole idea is to understand the perspective of the other person, and that's the reason why I created this video. While I know Spotify is not fair with its payment to the artists, it gives us the ability to reach a wider audience. So it's sort of a catch-22 kind of situation where it has its pros and cons. Spotify not paying the artists is more of a disadvantage to well-established artists, whereas its ability to reach out to a wider audience is an advantage to an upcoming musician. And the third point, which is the most important takeaway from this entire thing, is that while platforms like Bandcamp exist that enable the listener to pay directly to the artist, the listener still prefers to be on platforms like Spotify, which are sort of more convenient and cheap. So while the conversation of Spotify paying the artist needs to happen, there has to be another conversation entirely about the willingness of the listener to pay the artist, at least in India. Alright, that's it from this video. I was trying something new, so please leave a comment down below if you like something like this, and if you'd like me to create more videos like this. Please like the video, please share it with your friends and consider subscribing, and I will see you guys in the next video.